day after the England game and I'm down in the football village down near Tower Bridge. There's a good atmosphere around here. It's just opening. England have won and these are my top 5 takeaways from yesterday's match. Number 1, first games. I mean, I've never been part of an England team that have won a first game. In fact, no one has in the Euros. We've always drawn or lost and got off to really bad starts in European Championships. Even in Euro 96, we drew our first game against Switzerland, even though people remember it as a brilliant tournament. And yesterday, before the game, I would have said draw all day long. Hot day, 30-degree temperature, 2 o'clock kick-off. England having not the best preparation, with not being able to get the best 11 on the pitch before, playing against a really experienced, good Croatia team. I know people have said Croatia aren't very good after the game. Not many people were saying that before the game. I think for England to manage the game, which they did, it was a brilliant win. I think the thing that typified it most for me was Gareth Southgate's celebration at the end of the game. That wasn't an ordinary Gareth Southgate celebration for winning in the first game in the tournament. Point number 2 is Kieran Trippier, left back. I mean, how many of us before the game saw that team and thought, you know, why is Chilwell not playing? Why is Shaw not playing? They've had obviously excellent finishes this season. Trippier, obviously, he's distant to us in the sense that he's over in Madrid, but also he's not a left back. He's played there a few times, but certainly not played there regularly. And it was bizarre, and it was a massive risk from Gareth. And if you were certainly Luke Shaw or Ben Chilwell, you'd be thinking, you know, what am I doing here? You know, someone that's right back basically is playing at left back. But it paid off enormously. I think Gareth wanted maturity and experience in his team. He wanted to make sure, I think, that Tyrone Mings, who obviously is playing in a tournament match for the first time, left centre-back, he wanted to make sure that that sort of other half of the defence, Stones and Walker were fine on that right-hand side. He wanted to make sure there was some experience on that left-hand side of the defence. I think Kieran Trippier, being right-footed, tucks in a little bit more, has played obviously in tournaments before, and I think it ended up looking like a smart move, and you know, we were all wrong. Point number 3 is Jack Grealish. I think before the game, all of us were debating whether Jack would start, whether he would play sort of in that number 10 position or whether he would play one of the wide areas. We all thought he would come off the bench. But I just think it shows the surety of the manager that ultimately he didn't even bring him off the bench. He brought Calvert-Lewin on, Bellingham on, Marcus Rashford on, and didn't sort of sway to the public opinion, which, you know, many have in the past. And the one thing I would say about Jack Grealish, I mean, I absolutely love him to bits. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he'll play a big part in this tournament. But would I play him in front of Harry Kane? No, obviously. Would I play him in front of Mason Mount at the moment? No, because I think Mason Mount connects the team. He's like the glue of the team. I think the midfield and the attack are joined together by him. And I think he's defensively really dependable in terms of what he did yesterday and getting back in to help with Rice and Phillips in midfield. The job that he did was an unsung job. Would he play in front of Phil Foden on that right-hand side? No, I'd play Phil Foden there. So you talked about that left-hand side. I suppose Raheem Sterling, people sort of think that he had a difficult end to the season. But I think if you're playing Harry Kane up front and you're playing Phil Foden on the right, you have to play pace in that area on the left. And Rashford or Sterling, I think, will always start there. So for me, it wasn't a surprise that Jack didn't play. I don't think I would have played him in that game yesterday. Maybe would have brought him off the bench, but I'm sure Gareth will use him against Scotland or against Czech Republic or in games moving forward if we need to unlock a deep-lying defence. Number 4 is the manager. I made probably a sweeping statement last night on ITV, and it wasn't a planned statement, that I think Gareth Southgate's our biggest asset. You know, when I think of the fact he's got now nearly 85, 90 international games as a manager in the under-21s and first team, he's been to 4 tournaments as a player and many more as a manager and as a coach now. He's vastly experienced. He was probably people were inspired by Gareth's selection as manager when he first got the job off the back of Sam Allardyce leaving. But I look at it now, and there are many times with Gareth Southgate where I think, I wouldn't have done that, but then he ends up being proven correct. His use of players, his use of substitutes, his set-piece details. Yesterday I thought the throw-ins were incredible. The Foden chance came from a well-worked throw. And the reason you know it's well-known, it's not off the cuff, was that they did it again about 5 minutes later. So the detail's absolutely perfect. His selection of players like Trippier yesterday and Sterling, who were probably unpopular choices down that left-hand side. Everyone would have gone Rashford and Shaw, Rashford and Chilwell. So I just think we've got a manager now who knows this group, knows about England, knows how to handle the media off the pitch. He's pitch perfect when he talks about England teams and other maybe issues as well that have developed, like societal issues. So I think we've got a fantastic international manager, and I saw before the tournament that he was safe for next year. If he doesn't do well, I'd be locking him down for many years to come, because I do think he lives and breathes it. He understands tournament football, he understands the FA, how to play that game, and you know, hats off to him. You've done a great job, Gareth. And the last one, I suppose it's not about this game, but I can't not talk about Scotland, what it means, playing in Euro 96, the celebration with Gazza in the dentist chair, the Gazza goal. The atmosphere that day was so special, and just Scotland generally. You know, when England play Scotland, and I'm not being sort of, you know, there might be some England fans who have that dislike for Scotland, but we don't feel it, I don't think, in England, the way in which the Scots feel about us. And the Scottish always seem to have that real rivalry, that intense passion and dislike, and sometimes hatred against the English, and obviously it comes from generations, but they really do feel it. And I wonder how sort of some of their players will deal with that on Friday night. I wonder how the England players will deal with it. You know, you talk about a spirited Scotland, but with McGinn, McTominay, Tierney, Robertson, I think the two up front Dykes, Adams have got real awkwardness to them that could cause you a problem if they're, you know, running around like crazy. I see it as a really awkward game for England on Friday night, and something that I'm looking forward to. Can't wait to be in the stadium. I wish it was full, but I'm sure we'll still get a great atmosphere, and I think England will just win it just because they've got the more quality, but I think it'll be very, very difficult.